What's up, football fans, and welcome to another episode of the Believe in Big Ten podcast presented by FanDuel. Once again, I'm your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Grant Perry. And it's funny, man, Grant, every time we jump on here to start recording a podcast, we talk anywhere between 5 and 30 minutes probably before we get started. And a lot of that stuff probably should just be on the show. I tell myself that all the time. But we've got some pretty interesting stuff to talk about this week. All 18 Big Ten teams are in action, so there's 9 games. We're going to kind of skip over 4.5 of them, and then really focus on 4 pretty big matchups. And that, a lot of the talk that we do before the game, before we record, Grant, has to do with the betting lines. You and we're both pretty into it. It's pretty awesome that we get to mention FanDuel. We're partnered with FanDuel. We get to talk about their lines and some of their props and things like that. So that's what we're going to continue to do today. Grant, you've been doing pretty well when it comes to some of these lines. Are you feeling good about this week's? Have you had a chance to look at this week's slate yet? I mean, here we are on a Wednesday or Tuesday, and so we got some time still. How do you feel about the Big Ten this weekend?
I'm feeling good, man. I have looked at a few lines, more so kind of nationally. I went through. I like going through on like Sunday, Monday night, and just looking at what Vegas is putting out there early. Because I mean, come Friday, Saturday, those lines change. But I was very interested to see what Michigan State was going to open up at. With UCLA coming off that big win, and same with Penn State. I mean, they have another team in Northwestern that they're obviously supposed to beat. But I was a little interested to see what Vegas was going to come out and do and put on those lines. But those were the kind of the 2 that I was looking at. Definitely going to take a deeper look here as the week goes on.
Well, we will get into them a little bit here. We're going to go slightly out of order. We have a Friday night matchup in the Big Ten with Rutgers traveling to Washington. We'll come back to that one in a moment. But the 4 that we're going to skim over, Grant, we're just going to do money line picks because 3 of them honestly they're pretty close to toss-ups. Not quite. There's a few that are favored a little bit more. Penn State, you just mentioned, is a heavy favorite against Northwestern, and that's where we'll start. The Wildcats are going to Happy Valley, Grant. Per FanDuel, Penn State is favored to win that one by a lot. They are minus 2,300 on the money line, Grant. These are the kind of bets you don't really need to even do. You look a little bit more at the spread maybe or the over-under, or that's where you get into the props. But I think obviously if we're going money line look here, it's got to be Penn State. But everybody and their brother, their mama, their sister, their cousin, auntie, uncle, everybody was saying the same thing last week against UCLA, and we know what happened there. So there's no way 2 weeks in a row, right? It's got to be the Nittany Lions all day long.
Yeah, you think, right? But are you willing to put a little sprinkle on their spread? I'm staying away from that.
So here's the deal. Unless you're putting a ton, it's not even worth it because the spread more
okay,
even. The spread,
yeah. Money line, there's no point in even entertaining that.
Yeah. So Penn State minus 2,300 on the money line. Nebraska going to Maryland minus 265 on the money line here, Grant, for the Huskers. Would you take that? Would you take them straight up on a money line to win this game going into College Park and taking on the Terps?
I think I would. I think that would be a good. So when I see a minus 240, that's when I usually pair it with one other team, maybe another team I'm confident about. That one intrigues me though because I was kind of leaning on Maryland plus because I think they were getting 6 points last week versus Washington, and they ended up covering that because they only lost by 4, ended up giving them 21 points in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to lean Maryland on the spread on this one. I think I was kind of surprised on how close Michigan State was able to kind of keep and stay into that game last weekend versus Nebraska. So I think Nebraska on the road, going against a team that, freshman quarterback Malik Washington, I'll take the Terrapins plus 6 on that one. I think that's what it's at. If it's near there.
I like your approach with money lines in that ballpark as well. When you get to 240, 250, 300, you stack 2 or 3 of those together, you double your money up and you feel pretty good about Nebraska winning that game. I would put them on, a 3 or 4 leg little parlay, something just to pick winners. This next one I'm not real sure about, and that's why I put them in just as money lines here. Iowa at Wisconsin. I don't know if that's just, I don't know. Not an awesome game to watch, probably. Iowa, the money line, minus 184. So now we're getting even closer to a pick 'em at this point. This one is probably one I would stay. I just don't really know even how I would pick who's going to win this one.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. This is one where you watch this game either because you graduated from Iowa or Wisconsin, or you love punting, or you love defense. This is not a game that you're going to turn on and hear Gus Johnson, because he's not on the call, but you'll hear Gus Johnson screaming these crazy stuff. Like, this is going to be very monotone, back and forth. I think the team that has the best field position is probably going to win. And the only reason I lean towards not picking Iowa outright, two reasons. Iowa is on the road at night and, in Madison. So whatever advantage that gives you, I think Wisconsin could muster up a few points off of that. And then two, the way that they played Michigan in that first half, I was like, dude, first off, I know Michigan was more capable of what they showed, but at the same time, Wisconsin was walking in there with third string quarterback with, I think their center was out. Like, they had a lot of missing pieces, but they still were in this game and still had some fight. I like in this one, like, I don't like to pick, Iowa or Wisconsin. Like, I don't know who's going to win that. But I think I'm going to take, and it's risky, but I'm going to take the under, dude, at like 37.5. This is like a 20, like a 17-10 kind of game.
That sounds very realistic and reasonable. That might be the way to go on this one. Stay away from who's going to win. Stay away from the spread, because I don't think either one of them have pull away power, and just go for a lack of offense and a lack of scoring. That's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Then last but not least, another one where you're kind of looking at both teams. I guess maybe you go with the home team. That's really Purdue going to Minnesota, and Minnesota is minus 330 on the money line. I don't know. I feel better about Nebraska at minus 265 than I think I do Minnesota at minus 330. But that would, again, that's like two where you could put those together with maybe one more and have a decent little bet going for you. But another game that I don't have much interest in watching. I don't think there's going to be a lot of offense. It's not going to be a very pretty. But I guess if I had to, I would probably just take Minnesota straight up to win the game, being at home.
Yeah. I feel you on that. Like, minus, would you say it was like 300 something?
Minus 330, yeah.
Yeah, like that. That's just, that's one of those where you're just like, like that's a stacker. And even in, like, with that, like, I mean, who's to say Purdue doesn't go in there and beat them? Like,
I know, that's what I mean.
Like, and like, I think they're getting, is it at 8.5 right now? Like, what's that?
See, I didn't write the line down. You keep talking. I'll check while I'm looking here. Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I just think, obviously, I expected a little bit more out of Minnesota. Going to the shoe last week, that's tough. Like, I'm not saying go in there and win, but I'd like to see at least 10 points, maybe 13 points, not 42-3. But then again, too, you look at Purdue. I mean, they're putting up points against some of these teams that are, in the top 25, whether that's Notre Dame or Illinois. They had 30 versus Notre Dame and 27 versus Illinois, 17 versus USC. Like, it leads me to believe that they're going to score. I think Minnesota is going to score too. In this one, I think this is one of those, again, where it's like minus 330 on the money line. Like, you probably want to stack that versus going a single bet. I would definitely I don't know what the over's at, but if it's anywhere in that 48 to like 50, I could see these teams going like 27-24, like something close to that. So I'd probably lean over in this one. But like, as far as picking one, like, I don't feel comfortable saying Minnesota is a 9-point favorite. Like, I don't feel comfortable saying that.
Grant, look, I'm going to make this real difficult because I know what kind of face you're going to make when I tell you the over under, Grant, is 51.5. Oh, that's it. There's the face right there. It never fails. Like, you think about a score and then you go look at the line. You're like, yep, that's about what I was. Yeah. So it's right with, if you said 27-24, that's 51 points. So, I mean, you were all over the number. Yes, Minnesota favored by 9.5. I don't love that either. I think I would stay away from that, but I don't love. I don't love Purdue at plus 9.5 either. I don't like either one of those. Like, it's impossible to pick a good one on that one. But I don't know. You think you see some points in this one?
I feel like I do. Like, I think Minnesota coming off a 3-point game in the shoe. Like, you got to think PJ Fleck's going to turn up the heat this week. And Purdue, they score points, man. They just they're not in the game a lot of the time, but they score points. I mean, 17 versus USC, like, 30 versus Notre Dame, 27 versus Illinois. Like, if they're scoring 30 versus Notre Dame, who's to say they can't score 30 versus Minnesota,
Yeah.
So I don't know. If there was a game where I had to take a random shot and like just guess, I would take Purdue plus the points because like what has Minnesota showed me? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a fair point. All right, all 4 of those games taking place on Saturday. Let's take a step back now to the five games that we're gonna talk a little bit more about. Bigger programs, some ranked matchups in there, some props that we can talk about and have some fun with. Again, all these numbers, lines, props, and everything presented by FanDuel here on the Believe Network. First one out of the gate, Friday night, Big Ten matchup on Friday night. Grant, Rutgers going out to Seattle. Washington favored by 10.5. It's at 9:00, so it's a night game. We've talked about this all season long. Michigan dealing with it this weekend. The travel, adding in these West Coast programs. So Rutgers going out to I think that might be the farthest trip possible in the Big Ten, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably
Rutgers to Washington, maybe Southern California. I guess I'd have to look at that. But Washington favored by 10.5. We've talked about Damon Williams in the past, how we like him and his dual threat ability. Jonah Coleman is getting it done on the ground. What's Boston's first name? The receiver, I forget his first name.
Denzel.
I almost called him David Boston. Grant.
David Boston.
That's where my brain's at. But Denzel Boston.
Buckeyes would have loved you.
Man, I was even pretty young when he played. But anyway, they're kind of 1, 2, 3. They're big name guys. They're Damon Williams, the quarterback, Jonah Coleman, the running back, and Denzel Boston at receiver. Washington by 10.5. I think give me the Huskies. I think they'll beat Rutgers, and I think they'll beat them by 11 or more.
Yeah, I feel that way too. And I'm kind of going off of the game. I did see Rutgers play. I saw them play Iowa. They kept that one close. They were at home as well, and they still ended up losing by I think about 10 points. I think we've talked about playing, at Washington. Like that's a tough venue, and Huskies are coming off a tough road win at Maryland. Get to retreat back to their home ground. Like I like I like Washington in this as well. And Damon, coming off a decent game, 28 of 41, 275 and 2 touchdowns with 1 interception. Jonah Coleman, I think had like 8 receptions, dude. He is like offense runs through Jonah Coleman. Denzel Boston's there as well. And then also too, I wanted to mention one of their receivers, dude. He is a freshman, Desmond Roebuck, dude. He is for Washington. If you get a chance to watch this game a little bit, he is like it kind of reminds me of myself a little bit. He's way better, but like I was a freshman in Jed Fish's offense. Like I have that same familiarity, and seeing him out there ball, dude, he's making tough catches for that team. So I'm excited to see him keep progressing and keep going. He's turned up as like a really solid second option outside of Denzel. So yeah, give me the Huskies here in this one. I think Jonah Coleman is just too much to deal with. I think Damon Williams is when he's on, man, he's on, accurate. And when there's lanes to run, he can run and really disrupt the defense. And then Denzel Boston, he's playing, as good as any receiver in the Big Ten right now. And I got a little love for that freshman receiver, Roebuck, too. So yeah, give me the Huskies. I like this one. It's on their turf, far travel from New Jersey. So yeah, give me the Huskies in this one.
Yeah, I think all the things you said and then what you threw in right there at the end. Going all the way out to Seattle from New Jersey, that's tough. I don't know when they're traveling. I was at the Michigan press conference earlier this week, and Sharon Moore talked about last year when they went to Washington, they went on a Friday, and they've scrapped that travel plan. They're going to USC on Thursday this week just to get a little more adapted to it. I don't know what Rutgers is doing, but that just shows you that travel is a big deal. It affects the body. It affects your brain. You got to get ready to play at a weird time, all the way across the country. So, yeah, give me Washington minus 10.5 in that one. Then we shift our attention to Saturday. This first one, I know it's at Illinois, but this Ohio State line feels like free money, Grant. Ohio State 14.5 at Illinois. You remember Illinois did get beat by 50+, correct, by Indiana? Like, how is Ohio State not going to win by 3 touchdowns or more in this game? Right? I
think that's a very good point. That's one of those like, hey, like I'm very intrigued by that line.
Only 14.5. That's a pretty decent number, but I just feel like Ohio State could run away with that one easily.
Yeah, I do too, man. It's a noon game too. Like,
yeah, noon game is. I don't know if that's big noon kickoff. They're both ranked still, I believe, right?
Yeah. I think Illinois is 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I want to lean towards that 14.5 as well with you. And a big part of that is because their defense, dude, like their defense is playing really, really good football. The points that they've given up is literally 3, 6, 9, 0, and 14.
Yeah.
They allowed over 10 points a game, and they played Texas. They played Washington, who's got a great offense. And And they'll probably face their I'd say this probably is their second or third hardest offense that they'll face in Illinois. If you compare that to Washington, I think Texas probably had better athletes. I don't know if it was functionable in comparative to what Illinois has been able to do offensively, just because how Texas and Arch haven't really started to click yet. But
yeah,
I could see it staying within 14 if Illinois just somehow finds a way to score. But I mean, the schedule in which Ohio State has put out there, like their tape doesn't lie. Like they haven't allowed people to score. So I would lean on that 14.5 as well. And I'm going to be surprised too if we check back here Friday and that thing's at 16.5, maybe even 17. Like just saying, hey, like we think they're going to win by 3 scores. Do you as well? So
yeah, I just feel like that's just not giving them the respect. It's funny you enter the season, talking about how good Jeremiah Smith is, and what's the running back situation going to look like, how Sand going to do, and it turns out to be all about Ohio State's defense. And some people are saying it might be their best defense in 10, 20 years. I mean, like that's how good they've been. And you rattling off those scores is a testament to that. But speaking of Jeremiah Smith, Grant, a little wide receiver prop bet for you in that game. Jeremiah Smith, this is a big number, bro, but the over under on FanDuel right now for Jeremiah Smith's receiving yards in that game is 91.5. Do you take the over or the under for Jeremiah Smith, the best wide receiver in the nation, going to Illinois and Ohio State trying to win that thing by more than 15 points?
That's a good question, man. Because he's been having a lot of games with multiple touchdowns, but I think last week he had 80 something. I think 2 weeks before that, like another 80, like maybe low 90s game. Like he's been having great production, but it hasn't been 120, 140, what like he was doing like to the extent of last year. And as I say that, he could have one of those games this week. 90, man. I mean, it's really hard to say that he's not going to get 90. He could probably get 90 with his eyes closed. I'm gonna lean under though. I'm gonna go against FanDuel. FanDuel wants you to take the over. I'm gonna take the under on this one, just because their offense has been great. It's been solid, but like they've been distributing that football. Julian Sain can get that ball out elsewhere. A lot of Jeremiah Smith's touchdowns, his big plays have been inside the red zone. I know I watched that Washington game and he had a lot of important catches like inside the 30-yard line. So I think they facilitate that football. I think Carnell Tate sees a lot of action. I think Max Clare obviously gets his touches, and they got a running back. I think Bo Jackson, who's coming along, and he's showing that he can be that lead guy. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to say he gets like 89.
So just to kind of piggyback off of what you said about his production, he scored in every game except for the first one against Texas. 2 games with 2 touchdowns already, but the only time he's gone over this mark was against non-power 4 opponents. Grambling, he had 119 yards, and Ohio, he had 153. He has not reached the 90-yard mark against Texas, against Washington, or against Minnesota. So I think your under bet is probably pretty well placed there. I mean, dude, this kid could go for 240, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like, he could do that any week against anybody. But if another team is really, really, bracketing him or, whatever it might be, and they're trying to take, we're not going to let number 4 beat us. They've got plenty of other guys who can, and that's what you'll probably see. So I like that. I'm going to take the under as well, just based on what I just said. The 3 power 4 opponents and two quite good ones. I don't know about Minnesota's defense, but all 3 of them have kept him under that 91.5 mark. So I will do the same. Maybe not a great game in terms of powerhouse programs, but I think the storyline is intriguing coming off of last week. UCLA, Grant, somehow, some way managed to beat Penn State, and now they're going to Michigan State, who, they haven't looked bad, but they haven't looked like world beaters. I mean, they lose to Nebraska, but they've looked okay at times. Aiden Childs has a tendency to make some plays here and there. UCLA, I have no idea what we're going to see out of them this week after what they did last week against Penn State. But the Spartans are favored by 9.5, Grant. 9.5. Not the most potent offense in the world, but it is is it the UCLA that gets beat by 25 by New Mexico, or is it the one that showed up last week and somehow beat Penn State? Like, that's what makes this line crazy. I'm staying away from it personally. I wouldn't touch this one. I don't know but for this, I will take the 9.5 and the Spartans at home. I think UCLA, like they probably feel like we're good. We've arrived. Like after last week, I don't even know what kind of motivation that gives them this week. But give me the Spartans -9.5.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. Like, are we getting the lose by 20 to New Mexico, Bruins, or are we getting the Bruins that just upsetted, what was a lot of people's, including mine's, Big Ten predicted champion? Like, oh boy. So, but 9.5, that's a lot of points to me.
It is, man.
That's a lot of points. And when, I think Nico won. I think he won. I forget what the award he won right here. I have it right here. He won Offensive Player of the Week. So he's feeling good. Their offensive coordinator, the whole, the camera was on him the whole game. Like the head coach was not in it was all on him.
Baby Neuheisel?
Yeah, Neuheisel. And I was seeing it was like a Lannister, like from Game of Thrones, cracking up at the memes. But I like Michigan State. This is one of those lines that I'm like, man, I think Michigan State's going to win. But 10 points is a lot of points to me, and especially when you have a quarterback like Nico, who, I mean, hasn't played the best, but is athletic enough to keep you somewhat, in the game, quote unquote. And I think I'm going to say that he's going to backdoor cover this late in the game, like, I don't know, 27 to 10, and then they get it to 27-17. Like I can see a backdoor cover late. So I'm going to take, this would be a line where I would alt Michigan State to like 3.5 or maybe even 4 to better my odds. I do feel good about Michigan State winning this one. But as far as the numbers, I think that's a lot of points. And I don't think UCLA is going to have that performance they had versus Penn State.
Right.
I think if we get half of that, that's still good enough to compete with Michigan State.
Grant Perry bringing the knowledge again. You might have talked me. Maybe I do that. Maybe I do an alt line. I like that idea. Maybe you shift it down just a little bit to even 7.5 or 6.5 or something like that. Where you feel a little bit better about it. How about the player prop though? Aiden Childs over under 165.5 passing yards. Grant 165.5. Not all that dissimilar to what Bryce Underwood's doing at Michigan, throwing when you need him to, but lots of damage with his legs, kind of moving the chains here and there. We've seen that lately out of Bryce Underwood. They're built similarly. I mean, I like Aiden Childs, man. I do. I don't know if they're using him correctly at Michigan State. I feel like a different offense would suit him better, maybe. But 165.5. Grant, what do you think?
I'm going to take the over in that one.
Okay.
I think too, because I think a lot of the talk of the town last week, as far as Michigan State, was like the whole Nick Marsh, Aiden Childs sideline controversy. And then Aiden says, hey, we sat on right next to each other on the flight home. Like, we're just competitive guys. We're all good. And I've been a part of like situations where it looks like quarterback and receiver, running back are beefing it. And most of the times there's not beef there. It's just two guys that want to succeed, that want to put out great tape and want to do great things. And one thing's just not going well for one guy, and then the other guy gets mad because he's not getting the look. But little does the receiver understand, like, hey, I'm getting 5 guys rushing my face. Like, I can't look at you first. It's not the right coverage. So like, there's a lot of things that go into it. I think they get right. I think he goes for 200. Like last week, I thought Bryce was going to have 220 on Wisconsin, and it wasn't trending in that direction. And then it quietly got, probably was a 270. Thanks to McCulley and Marsh stepping up. So I'm going to take the other Marsh. I'm going to take Nick Marsh and Aiden Childs to have a good week. I think if there's a defense that you want to be able to throw against, it's a UCLA type of defense. So I would take that. I would take that plus 165.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at Aiden Childs' numbers this year. He was at 155 against Western Michigan at the beginning of the season. That was kind of finding his way a little bit. I know they had a pretty good running attack that game. Didn't really need him to throw much. And then Boston College, Youngstown State, and at USC, well over 200 yards. So like he was eclipsing that number, no problem. Last week, only 85 yards at Nebraska, and they obviously got beat by 11. So I think back at home against a pretty porous defense in UCLA, I think he'll be able to spin it too and throw it around a little bit. And maybe really prove to everybody what you just said. Yeah, there was something, a little dust up on the sideline. That stuff happens, man. I know we saw it at Michigan earlier this year too with Bryce Underwood and Justice Haynes. Couldn't be two of like the nicer kids I've seen and I've covered in a long time. Like that, the heated competition, like you said, you want everybody to do well, and you just it's hard not to get a little fired up at times. So I'm going to take the over on Aiden Childs' passing number as well, 165 and a half.
And I like that other receiver they got, that number 1, Omarion Kelly. I think he's nice too. I like him and Marsh together.
And their tight end is pretty solid too. Velling, is that his name?
Yeah.
That's his name. Yeah. So they've got some players to catch the ball there a little bit. So we'll both take the over on that one. 165 and a half for Aiden Childs. Shifting to the afternoon, 3:30 kick. Indiana, another East Coast team going to the West Coast. Grant, Indiana going out to Oregon, playing at Autzen. The Ducks are favored by 7.5. This one's tough because I think Oregon is a far better team, but we have seen what it looks like when Kurt Cignetti and Indiana and Mendoza and and everything is clicking just right. And he kind of seems to have a knack to get things to click just right. Oh, that one's. I'm taking the Ducks. I'm taking the Ducks to cover 7.5. But that Indiana team is scary. Everybody saw what they did against Illinois. That was billed as this, Big Ten, up and coming team. Illinois was a top 10 team at the time and just got boat raced. Probably the most lopsided Big Ten game we might see this year. So I'm a little hesitant, but if I had to pick, I'll take the Ducks to cover -7.5.
I like that. And I think that's a good bet. When I look at these two teams, and I'm looking at PFF, overall statistical wise, they have Oregon as second, Indiana as 8th. As far as defensive ratings, Indiana 6th to Oregon's 10th overall, and then offense, Indiana 8th to Oregon 11th. And I do think Oregon wins this game. I think with the crowd, with it being in Autzen, I think that plays a huge factor. And luckily it's not at night, or else I think this line would be a few more points. But I think I am going to take Indiana for two reasons. Not money line necessarily, but plus the points. And my first reason is they play some solid defense. I think if they can travel their defense to Autzen, if they can get a few stops here and there, that can keep them in the football game. And I think that's what you need first off when you're traveling on the road to a hostile environment. If you travel your defense and if you were able to play possession games where they're not scoring a lot and maybe you aren't either, but you're getting the ball and you're keeping the ball out of Dante's hands in that explosive offense, I think you can stay in the game. And then second, Fernando Mendoza, he's a West Coast guy. He's played over there. He's played at Autzen.
Cali kid, I believe, right?
Yeah, like he knows that side of the state. That's his natural time zone. So I'm going to say that he keeps those guys in it. If there's a guy that you want to be ready for the moment at your quarterback, he's playing as good as any quarterback right now, including Dante. So I think this is a great game, man. I think Oregon does win it, but I'm going to take Indiana plus the points on this one.
I like it. I mean, like I said, that number, again, Vegas does well with what they do. They set that number right where you feel uncomfortable with it. That's the point. That's what they're supposed to do. That's about where I would say. I mean, I would say, Oregon probably by about 6 or 7, and there's the line 7.5. So, yeah, I will take the Ducks, but wouldn't surprise me one bit if everything you just said comes to fruition. Mendoza spinning it around a little bit, Indiana playing tough, and I do think Oregon wins regardless. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were not able to cover that 7.5. But I will take that number. I will take the -7.5. Grant, I'm going to ask you this player prop line a little bit differently. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this. If you have, then whatever. We'll talk about it a different way. But what quarterback do you think has the higher mark set for over/under on passing yards? Do you think it's Dante Moore, or do you think it is Fernando Mendoza? So they
Mendoza.
They pick the number and then you figure whether it's over or under. You're going with Mendoza?
Yeah.
You would be wrong, Grant, and that's why I asked this question, because it surprised me.
I thought you were coming from that angle of like home guy.
It surprised me as well. Right now they have the over/under for Dante Moore set at 258.5, which is a pretty high number, I think.
Yeah, it is.
And Fernando Mendoza is 224.5, so a 34-yard discrepancy in the direction that I wouldn't have guessed. I would have thought Mendoza would have had the higher line. So I guess just quick, we don't have a dog in the fight here, but a quick thoughts on two quarterbacks that I'm pretty impressed by. I think they will both throw it around quite a bit, but I would have went the other way on that one, even on the road.
Yeah, I would have definitely went the other way. You're a 7-point dog on the road. That's given the assumption that you're going to be trying to come from behind most of the game. So therefore, trying to throw it more, trying to save clock. So yeah, I definitely thought Mendoza was going to be that, the over on that one. Especially too and I know Indiana can run the football, but we saw Oregon's run game, man, versus Penn State. I mean, that freshman running back really came alive. I think his name 23. I forget his name. Yeah, Hill. So he's nice. And they got that freshman receiver Moore, who's a baller, and then Sadiq at tight end. So yeah, I'm a little surprised by that as well. And like Indiana, man, they got guys that can go catch that football. Amar Cooper, they got Elijah Surratt. Like they got guys that can go catch that football. But yeah, it shocks me a little bit too that Indiana comes in as the 7-point dog, but it's projected less. I mean, just maybe they're banking on Oregon just having a great day of defense.
Yeah, I just was kind of surprised by that when I was going through to write down some stuff for us to talk about. I was like, I would have thought that was the other way around. Do you think that number's real high for Moore? 258.5. I'd probably take the under on that.
Yeah, I would lean under on that. Now, if that was 250 rush and pass, I would take the over. Just because he's finding ways to maneuver that pocket. It is a little different. NFL and college, you got to be careful because those sacks count against rushing yards for quarterbacks. So that'll
bite you. That'll bite you on some.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think they have? What's the discrepancy there?
I don't know. I've always kind of wondered that. I mean, like clearly the quarterback's not running the ball. Like, why does that? And then they even throw in the sack adjusted yardage. I mean, just get rid of it then. Why do you even have it then? Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's probably some story or explanation if you dug into it. Anybody listening or watching is probably like, you idiots don't even know. I don't know. I don't know why it's different from college to the pros, but it is, and that makes a big difference when you talk about quarterback rushing production. So yeah, we'll see what that looks like. But I thought that 258.5 was a high mark for Dante Moore. I would have thought Mendoza would have been higher as well. So last but not least, Grant, the Michigan Wolverines will be traveling out west as well to USC. USC is -2.5 as the home favorite in the Coliseum. 7:30 kick. My bias is going to leak in a little bit here, Grant, but I'm going to take Michigan to win the game. I actually think Michigan's running game and that defense, I think, is going to be the best defense that Maeva has seen so far. Look, I know Lincoln Riley can dial it up and make his quarterbacks look great, and he'll probably do that at times. Michigan is a little bit banged up in the secondary, but I expect Zeke Berry, again, coming back off the injury, to be a little bit sharper. Rod Moore is now kind of getting full swing into things, and he's very important on the back of that defense. And we've talked about Jayshon Barham on our Michigan podcast and here on the Big Ten podcast. He's an animal, and I think he's going to get after the quarterback like he has all year. Give me the Wolverines as the dog to go out there and get a win, get an outright win. Forget the 2.5, which is essentially a toss-up. I mean, you're talking about a field goal difference there, but give me Michigan to win the game.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. I think what you said is 100% true. I think this will be the toughest defense that Maeva and Riley have faced thus far this season, which definitely plays into our favor. I think they're getting that 2.5 too, just because of the West Coast. That plays into factor. But this is essentially a toss up, and I'm leaning Michigan as well on this one. I think our offensive pass game came a little bit alive last week. McCauley really kind of stepped up and showed, hey, I can be that true X. And Marsh is really kind of saying, hey, like, why are we even considering another guy at Z? 5 for 80. Like, come on, let me lace him up and play the Z. So I do like Michigan in this one. And then I think I'm going to take prop wise, I'm going to take Jacoby Lane over 42.5 receiving yards. Had a great game versus us last year. And I think he came back last week versus Illinois. Played a little bit here and there, and I think he'll be back full speed. So I'm going to take that as a prop just to kind of counteract my happiness. So when they're on offense, maybe doing well, if they go into Jacoby Lane, I'll be happy.
Yeah, you like those receivers at USC, both a couple of them. Lane, Makai Lemon, I know, has been making.
Makai's at 82.5 right now for yards.
That's a big number, but yeah, that Lane number seems pretty modest, seems pretty attainable. Last but not least, Grant, I'm going to let you pick. Would you like to talk a prop of Justice Haynes, Bryce Underwood, or Maeva? Which prop would you like to discuss to put a bow on this episode right here?
Let's go with who should be in the Heisman conversation. Let's go, Mr. Haynes.
One, Justice Haynes, the first running back in Michigan history to go over the 100-yard mark in his first games with the program. So obviously he's a transfer, not a true fresh. That they keep flashing that thing, and that's. I mean, I'm not trying to poo-poo the achievement. It's a big deal, but generally speaking, it's a freshman would be your first 5 games with the program. He's a little more established as a transfer, but he's gone over 100 yards in all 5 games this year, Grant. And FanDuel sees it happening again. They have I guess this is the line that they set, whether we think it's going to happen or not. But his over-under is set at 105.5, Grant. 105.5 yards for one Mr. Justice Haynes, the Heisman hopeful per his head coach and per his teammates. So that's a big number, but it's just what he does. It's every week, man. He pops off a 40 or 50-yard run. By the end of the game, he's got 110 and a couple scores maybe. I don't know how you pick against him until he doesn't do it. So give me the over, man, right? It's got to be.
Yeah. Give me the over. Give me over 105. I mean, he's going to have one or two runs that are probably 50 or 60. And two, like, I kind of felt like, kind of conservative Michigan was back a little bit last week. And I think that makes for a run game, a little bit of an overdose in the run game. And we're going out west. Probably don't want Bryce trying to win us the game again on another kind of, hostile-esque environment. So, yeah, I think they're going to lean on Haynes, lean on Marshall. And then, if history is a repeater of itself, he's going to squirt for 1 or 2 big runs and that should hit.
Yeah, 105.5. I mean, you see that line.
That's a Derrick Henry line. That's
you don't see that line very often with running backs, but I don't know how you could pick any lower than that with what he's done and what he's been, and it hasn't mattered. Like you said, I mean, even at Oklahoma where he was bottled up a decent amount, he rips off a 75-yarder and there you have it. I mean, and he's done that in every game. He's had a 40-yarder, a 59-yarder, I think, a couple 75-yarders. So like he's good for that seemingly every single week. So. And you mentioned the throwing too. Bryce Underwood, by the way, and what's Mayava's first name? I keep just going by his last name. Jaden Mayava. There you go. 80-yard discrepancy between their over-under for passing yards. 265 for Mayava, 187 for Underwood. Do what you want with those numbers. He's Grant Perry. I'm Brandon Brown. We're approaching 40 minutes just talking ball, dude. We can't stop. 37 minutes of ball. He's Grant. I'm Brandon Brown. Thanks, everybody, for listening.